And before you click away, this is not one of these normal walk around videos that's going to bore you maybe a little bit, showing you all the same stuff. We're going to poke in the corners and look for the quirky stuff. So if you want to see more like this, click that subscribe button and join us at Oscar's Garage. Anybody who's into classic cars will know if you mention Reliant Scimitar, you have to say, didn't Princess Anne own one? And in fact, Princess Anne owned this very one. And in fact, over a lifetime, she's owned 8 of these cars and only actually had to give this one up because of security reasons. Now, this is actually a Middlebridge Scimitar rather than a Reliant Scimitar, because Middlebridge took on the manufacturing after Reliant decided to concentrate on their SS1 sports cars. And there's little things on it, like the little horse motif on the bonnet apparently was a gift from the late Queen Elizabeth II, and all the badges on the front grille are the ones that were on it when Princess Anne owned it. The other funny story about this, apparently she has got caught speeding twice at over 100 miles an hour in this car by the same policeman in 2 consecutive days. It's a great car with great history. It's now part of a private collection which they allow out so people can see it. And interestingly, the plate, the 1420H, is again another gift to her, I believe from the Queen, was down to the fact she was actually Colonel-in-Chief of the 1420 Hussars. So that's where the number plate comes from. So, but this is totally as she owned it. She had it from new, and as the old saying goes, one careful lady owner. Here on the 750 Motor Club stand, there's a car that not an awful lot of people seem to be taking notice of, but it's a really important one, because this is the very first car that was actually branded as a Lotus by Colin Chapman. And it's the first ever circuit-based Lotus. The previous Mark 1 and Mark 2 were for sporting trials. This Lotus Mark 3, which is based on an Austin 7, was actually aimed for circuit racing. And so it's based, as I said, on an Austin 7. It had to retain a lot of the original chassis, but this is really, you know, where Lotus cars really kicked off. Here on the Panther stand, there's a car that you probably haven't seen before, but elements of it you might recognise. Now, this is a Panther Rio. Now, this was built by Panther based on, as you look at the car broader, it was actually a Triumph Dolomite Sprint as a core car. Now, Panther took it, they changed the bodywork front and back. You might notice things like at the front we've got Granada Mark 1 headlamps and indicators. And it was very much trying to create almost a Rolls-Royce kind of car out of a Triumph. Now, inside there were fluffed up leather seats, there was walnut dash, there was a deep pile carpet. It was real top end, you know, really nice alloy wheels for the period. Incredibly, this car retailed, would you believe, 3 times the price of a normal Dolomite Sprint, and it was actually more than a Jaguar XJ. Now, Jaguar XJ obviously was quite an opulent car of its time, and you were expected to pay more for this. Ultimately, it never was a commercial success, as they only actually sold 38 of these, but, you know, when do you see another one of these? As we know, Crayfords are known for their convertibles, particularly based on Fords, but here is a Crayford convertible you haven't seen before. This is a Crayford Puma convertible bike in a bag. So I don't know an awful lot about it. I've seen a few of these kind of sort of scootery vehicles that are used by people with private planes and that kind of thing to give them transport when they get the other end, but I thought that's just a really cute little thing that I've never seen before. We're here on the mini kit stand, and this little vehicle here caught my eye. It's called a Turner Ranger, and I've never seen one before, and there's probably not been one in the NEC for a long time. And it's designed as a little sort of tractor tug for factories, small farms, that kind of thing. And it's actually got a mini engine, 1098cc in the middle, and at each end it's got a Triumph Herald axle. Now, the advantage of that is the Triumph Herald front axle, so it's actually 4-wheel steering, 4-wheel drive. It's only got a top speed of about 20 miles an hour, and it is actually road legal, this one. You can see the plates are not just for show, it really is road legal. And I just thought it's a lovely, quirky little thing, and, you know, that's what we love on Oscars. Here we are with something a little bit different, the Matra Bagheera. Now, when you think of 3 across seating sports cars, you're probably going to think of something like the McLaren F1. Well, actually, this predated it. This was actually introduced in 1973. It was a galvanised steel body with GRP panels on top, had a transverse engine in the rear, and it never really took off in the UK. It was only ever in left-hand drive, so it was always a bit of a challenge in this market. But I always think these are a really nice, quirky little sports car. Okay, we're on the Dowsett stand, which you'll know very well from their Tipo 184. Now, this is a car originally was conceived with Ant Anstead, and this one you can see it's got the road pack because it's got the wheel arches, it's got the headlights, and this is a great car. You take your MX-5, you take their space frame chassis, bolt it all together, and off you go. It's a great track car and obviously something really unique for the road. But they've got something really different coming up, and they've got this car here, which is their development car in association with Mold Tech Systems, who are in Hungary, and this is actually EV based. In the rear, it's got the motor from a e-Golf, and under the bonnet, it's actually got the battery from an ID3. This is very much a development car at the moment. At the moment, you can see that they're trying different things. They've got inboard shocks mounted on the suspension. Performance-wise, this is going to be 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds, and I think they were talking about 200 kilowatt motor in it. So quite an interesting thing. You're bringing together really modern stuff from VW, and obviously the classic style that this car has. I think it's a really interesting little project, this one. Okay, the Alpine GTA, this front end, people will be quite familiar with, but as we go back on this car, it's really quite different. It's a Wolfgang Pan-Heinrich conversion. Now, apparently there was about 10 to 12 of these done by the German company. I've never seen one before. I think it looks absolutely fantastic, and I think it really suits the body style. The interesting thing we got on this is the wide body kit, front and rear, very much a sort of Riga style kit for those who remember those. But I think it was absolutely amazing. In today's sort of money, this would be about £115,000 apparently. But yeah, really nice car. Never seen one before, and I doubt very much you have either. We're here on the Transit Fan Club, and this Mk1 Transit really caught my eye. Now, when we look at the front end, it's pretty original. It's got the original V4 engine in it. But as we move our way round, you'll see, despite the fact that the front end's very British, the back end is very American. And we've got Ford F100 arches on it. This body here has all been made bespoke. Now, there's a great story behind this. And what it is, originally this was a camper van. It's been, with the previous owner, it had gone all over Europe, 22 countries. And then it's actually come back, and the guy wanted to keep the caravanette bit off the back and put it onto a later Transit. So that left this with its chassis a bit behind. Now, the guy decided, well, I'll make a pickup out of it. And that's exactly what he's done. And it's beautiful front to back, and even down to this timber is a South African wood, which apparently has been on a pier in Bristol for 30 years, so it's pretty well weathered, that one. So yeah, I just think this is all round really nice. Right, we're having to do this one really quickly because this car is really popular. This car is called the Beast. It was originally originally built using, would you believe, a Spitfire engine. And I'm not talking about Triumph Spitfire, I'm talking about World War II Spitfire, 27-litre engine under there. It's spent some time in Spain. The owner not long ago has died, and it went through auction recently. It was originally like a sand colour, and it's had a repaint in this sort of metallic grey and silver two-tone. I think it looks really nice. It's something completely different. The length of it, I don't think we can get any real representation of how long this car is, but it's really interesting and one I like. Now here's something you haven't seen before, because there is possibly 6 of these left, but the club or the Roots Archive, whose stand this car is on, only know of 3. Now, this is a Sunbeam Venezia Superleggera, and yeah, I am having to read it. Now, this was commissioned by Roots in the 1960s by a company called Cabriolet Touring of Milan. Again, I had to read that one. And it is based on a Humber Sceptre floor pan, and you can see by the little ears on the front there, it's very much still got that Humber Sceptre look to it, and apparently that's one of the things that the Roots management wanted. And it's the Humber floor pan. It's then got a steel frame underneath, and then these body panels on top are aluminium. And down the bonnet, it's got something you normally see on Maseratis, Alfa Romeos. It's got Superleggera, and you wouldn't normally associate that with a Humber. Now, originally they were going to produce somewhere around about 300 vehicles, and that got reduced to 250. Eventually, I think between about 160 and 180 were produced. But they did use lots of regional parts, like the windscreen, which is quite interesting because for this era, it's actually got a double curvature on it. So it curves that way and it curves that way. So really rare car, this one, possibly just one of 3 left. So something really interesting. We like this kind of stuff on Oscars. Well, we're in Hall 8 and there's an awful lot of fast forwards here, and you'd be thinking, why am I looking at the Focus? Because I like the weird stuff. Wow, let's just look under the bonnet of this one. This Ford Focus has a quad cam V8 with twin turbos. And so it's now obviously got rear wheel drive, that's why it's got quite a wide track at the back. But I just think this thing is absolutely amazing. I'd love to see it in action. I imagine the noise is absolutely epic. We're here on the TR Drivers Club stand, and you think, Oscar's like the Squirky and it's a standard TR7, but not if we look a bit further back. Because this is a special ordered by a company called Page Motors, and it's actually been built by Crayford. Now, Crayford, we know, are people that really take roofs off, not put them on. And this was effectively a prototype to see whether there was a market for a sort of like a hatchback version of the TR7. Now, they only ever made the one, and for those of you that are really nerdy, if you Google, apparently there is a red one available as well in images, but it's in fact the same car. So there was never any sort of further orders, so this car is completely a one-off. Right, this is something you haven't seen before again. Now, looking at the front of this car, you think it's a Rover 75. Well, it looks like a Rover 75, but as we go back, it is incredible. This has been converted from a 4-door V6 car into a 2-door Cabriolet. It's taken 2,000 man-hours to convert. It's got a Mercedes E-Series folding roof system, and I think the seats look like E-Series as well. The doors have been lengthened by 250mm. It's had more strength put into the sills, and for those of you who know about vehicle conversions, this one has had a full IVA, which is why it's on a Q plate. So this is, I think, absolutely glorious. Imagine what could Rover have done if they produced a car like this. It is absolutely epic. I love it.